Chauvin guilty on all charges. What are your thoughts? I'm kinda surprised. I thought they'd nail him for manslaughter and third-degree murder, but I didn't think they'd get second-degree murder to stick. Genuinely honest legal question here. How do you get charged for second and third-degree murder and manslaughter? I always thought since they're all different levels you'd pick the one that applies. Basically my question is, why is manslaughter even there when second degree is much worse anyway, and why still use all three and convict on all three? I'm curious what comments the mods are deleting. Edit. I had this account for over a year and this comment tripled my karma LMFAO, thank y'all. Thinking about how we all watched him murder George with our own eyes and we were still anxious about the verdict. From a POV outside of the States, in my opinion it makes no difference unless major changes are actually being reinforced and made. Keep filming the police people. It was because of Darnella Frazier filming that brought police brutality to the public stage and started many calls for police reform. I think that the turning of his own department, and chief, against him in the case is indicative that Chauvin's on-camera case was such a difficult thing to defend that he was to become a sacrificial lamb in a sense. In order to defend the existing police establishment without significant change, they had to make a show of holding an officer accountable for crime. In this sense, I believe Chauvin is being used to diffuse public anger because he would have been a very hard case to justify and the people's discontent was reaching a boiling point. I'd love to hear fellow Redditors' theories on this. He was a bad cop and deserved it. Hopefully this whilst give other bad cops a reason to pause and wonder if they will be the next Chauvin. Might stop them from doing something reckless. Smartphones might be the cause of people not interacting face to face but are a brilliant way of capturing injustices. He deserved to be convicted, but I don't have the same joy and excitement a lot of people seem to have about it. Shitty situation top to bottom and I don't find anything happy about it. If someone has a history of concussions and I hit them in the head with a baseball bat and kill him, I don't get to say they died because of their history of concussions. I'm glad the jury realized that. I am extremely surprised. I'll admit, after watching closing arguments and bits and pieces of the trial, I believed the manslaughter charge was likely. It seemed there could be reasonable doubt on the murder charges and I expected those to be an issue for the jury. I was shocked when both of the murder charges came through. Regardless of my opinion, I should stay off of social media for a bit. Anyone else go straight to controversial. How can you be guilty of 3 different types of murder, with 1 death? Serious. Using an alt for obvious reasons. I feel like he didn't get a fair trial. At the beginning of the trial the jury admitted to the judge they were worried about their safety. Now, with the riots the last week or so, how could they not find him guilty? They must have been terrified that they would be targeted and attacked if they didn't convict. Couple that with comments from Maxine Waters and it's a wonder it took so long to come up with the verdict. He was convicted. The second rioters set fire to the city. I don't see a way the jury wasn't poisoned by current events. Good. But between Waters' remarks tainting the perception of the jurors' objectivity, and the judge not sequestering the jury, I think the defense has a pretty good case for an appeal. I agree with the verdict, but I don't think this is over. I think people were waiting for the verdict to come in so they could Kamorhor on Ask Reddit. I'm thinking people should stop feeling so excited until after the appeals process. This is a major controversial high-profile case. It isn't over yet. If a man being held accountable for crimes he committed is a turning point for justice, the bar must be on the fucking floor. Definitely the right call. I just hope he's not made into a scapegoat for a system that enabled him for so long. The jury did not want to have to put up with months of riots again. I know I don't, and I don't even live in a big city. I'm sorting everything by controversial. I don't know much about murder laws in Minnesota, but I'm surprised they got anything beyond manslaughter. Manslaughter is when you do something wrong that results in someone's death. That seems appropriate here. Murder requires intent. But I guess the fact that he had 9 minutes to think about it tipped it over into murder. Glad he got something at least. Fine with it. I support cops and believe they are necessary in our society for sure. But that was completely unnecessary what he did. You don't need to restrain someone like that for 9+ minutes after they are already cuffed and you have backup. I was surprised. I didn't expect more than manslaughter. But I'm extremely glad he got hit with murder too and it stuck. I feel 2 things. 1, police should not longer be given a, well I was doing my job, and hiding behind their badge for when they are working. Even then they do their job so poorly they literally kill a man. And 2, police should be aware that there are finally consequences for such gross negligence. I think he was a scapegoat. The full body cam footage was purposely withheld from the public while the bystander footage was shown all over the place. The full footage had to be leaked, which is fucked up in and of itself, but it shows Floyd saying he can't breathe before anyone touched him, shows him resisting arrest and avoiding getting in the back of the squad car. Not to mention the footage where it shows Chauvin's knee on the shoulder, not the neck. Then I saw YouTube removed the share button from the full footage video but allows you to share the bystander footage. IDK man. Maybe Chauvin should be charged with manslaughter if anything, but not murder. But you can't tell me that the whole thing, especially with Biden and Waters' inflammatory comments, is fair and in the up and up. No matter what side you are on. You can't honestly say he had a fair trial. He didn't stand a chance. Especially with the insane media coverage and the threat of rioting that was going to happen if he was found not guilty. We all know that if it was not guilty, there would be looting and violence in the streets right now. Honestly surprised it wasn't pushed into a mistrial. With the protests, political figure comments, especially Waters and Biden's remarks, and everything that's occurred, I'm genuinely surprised they didn't go for a mistrial, though the judge threatened it a few times. This case will likely get picked up in appeal just due to the circumstances surrounding all of this. We all knew the manslaughter charge would stick, and maybe the third-degree murder but second-degree murder. I was genuinely shocked they found him guilty. Edit. Grammar. Clarification. Free people should not tolerate execution of citizens in the street by agents of the state. Happy with the verdict but afraid it'll be overturned on appeal because Maxine Waters couldn't keep her mouth shut. Let's just hope the sentencing isn't half-assed. Let's see what censorship the mods are instilling. Trial. Presents cases, jury makes verdict. Reddit clowns. Actually. Controversial, I know, but I don't think this was a fair trial. I mean, you have a politicians threatening political violence. And these jurors' names will be public one day. I think the pig head was a message to them as well. I do think he should be guilty of something. It just doesn't sit right with me when people say this was a fair trial, or there is no way the jury felt threatened. The fact that the jury deliberated in so little time, asked no questions about anything, and returned a guilty verdict on all charges, including the completely contradictory second and third-degree murder charges, as the crowd outside chanted, "Burn it down," says it all. This might have been a manslaughter case. Maybe a wrongful death civil suit. But there were too many other mitigating factors to find second-degree murder beyond reasonable doubt. Edit. I also think Eric Nelson presented a shitty defense. Good. So relieved a murderer cop will see punishment for his crimes. Relief. It was weird as an outsider, Irish, to have a 10-minute video of a police officer killing someone by kneeling on their neck and for there to even be a debate about whether that was the cause of death. I also don't understand how it can be so divided that people are willing to defend this behavior just to get one up on the other side. This probably needs a serious tag. Whatever the verdict was, I'm getting tired of the public and media playing judge, jury and executioner outside the courtroom. It just feels riddled with mob mentality and social justice which don't belong in court. They don't belong in a courtroom. One thing that sets us apart from other countries is presumption of innocence, and we shouldn't take that for granted. I think this is a karma grab, and there are already plenty of good places to discuss this. Opening square bracket. I am wondering what's coming for the other three and hoping for complete justice here. The jury had to find him guilty or he would have broken loose. I don't think a fair verdict was reached and all we saw was a bloodthirsty mob get what they want. Just because a majority of people want it doesn't mean something is right. Alright, so which bitch-ass mod removed the controversial post with multiple golds and a shit ton of other awards? Agree with them or not, they started a conversation that needed to be had. Maybe try not to be cowards about viewpoints that aren't yours. I agree with the conviction, but the jury should have been sequestered. I'm concerned that the verdict wasn't decided based on a lack of reasonable doubt but instead based on incendiary comments basically threatening jurors made by lawmakers and the violence that erupted over the summer. In a case as volatile as this, I worry there's no such thing as an impartial jury since the jurors feared that their decision would lead to more violence. I could be wrong, but I can't fathom the fact that Floyd had 3x the lethal dose of fentanyl in his body after he died and little to no damage to his windpipe, and that wasn't reasonable doubt that he was murdered. My thoughts? I think George Floyd got the outrage that Elijah McClain deserved. I'm glad, but I think this is one small step of many more needed in this country. I hope the police reform bill passes. Accountability is good, but we need more. I don't think it was 100% fair, since so many people threatened violence if a single part didn't go exactly as they wanted. I see so many people demanding for his death, and for much, much worse to happen to him. Those same people demanding for the death penalty to be abolished. The people sympathizing for Lisa Montgomery and Christopher Violva but demanding the head for Chauvin. Bastard should rot in hell, but you guys need to stop being cherry pickers.